Welcome to the Dust Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be the Empire facing off against the Beastmen. We have Karl Franz facing off against the dreaded Unsummoned Lord. So again, this is a pretty common tactic where people on low leadership factions just bring like a crappy spearman or a hound and unsummon it to avoid the Lord slapping penalty, which is pretty funny stuff for sure. Nonetheless, it is going to be Karl Franz, and I think he's quite good against Beastmen. He causes terror. He has some really good AoE items like the Reikland Runefang to buff your cavalry in those Alpha Strike situations. And on top of that, who doesn't love using the Prince and Emperor? And he does kind of force you to bring a Lifecaster, but it's not terrible because Lore of Life is very good now. Dweller's Blow is one of the most broken spells in the game. And of course, Earthblood is just always solid with wagons in France. Now, Dust Bowl, I think, is like the new Bone Zone 2.0. I'm sure you guys remember back in the days of Warhammer 2, having the Bone Zone being one of our competitive maps, which was just like a Royal Rumble. And this is the Dust Bowl. So this is one of the map-making contest maps. Really fun one, just for like quick and fast and furious games. But it's going to be Beastmen against the Empire. So we got Spears in the front. Spearmen are very good against the Beastmen, and the Spearmen with shields especially because their melee defense is super high. You can see with a couple chevrons, which I had, they have almost 50 melee defense, which puts them up into Elven territory. And yeah, they're not going to win any, beauty contests here, but these guys will fight Minotaurs, they'll fight Razorgores, Centaurs, and they have enough melee defense to hold back Beastmen infantry and allow your other stuff to do the heavy lifting, which is pretty much the way of the Empire, right? So 3 of them, Sigmar Sons and Flagellants, backed up by a Jade Wizard, double cannons. Cannons are essential against Beastmen. Most of the Beastmen roster, in terms of the infantry aren't too problematic to deal with. It's really the Minotaurs, Centaurs, Razorgores, all those type of things. Tuskor characters and chariots, Taurochs. Cannons are good against all of those things, right? So having 2 cannons here is going to be essential. And I don't like to go all out on war wagons here because it kind of it doesn't, if you have too many war wagons, if I had brought 4, I wouldn't have enough infantry and front loaded mass to kind of protect my cannons, right? So I think 2 cannons or 2 wagons is a nice compromise on this matchup in that you have enough single target DPS with them, but it's also not too heavy duty into the wagon play, which I think can be detrimental against Beastmen, though it could be wrong. I guess if you built purely for wagons, didn't play any cannons, and just wanted to do that approach, it probably could work very well too. But I really do like the cannons. I feel like they do quite a bit because it forces the Beastmen to dive into your territory, which means you have all the summon advantages. So really that's kind of the school of thought there. But for my opponent's army, it's going to be a bunch of Ungors. So Ungors and Mass. We have the Grog Hooves of Wolves Run. We have more Centaur throwing axes here, which are very good against Empire because they can kind of, they can kill wagons if they can catch them. They can also, or get them in range. They can also kill your Empire heavy cavalry or characters. It's a good call. Bray Shaman Abuna, really good against Empire heavy cav. The Beast Lord's coming out, so the Haggard Beast Lord is the actual lord for the army. And we do have Minotaurs of Shields in the backfield, Minotaurs of Shields, and the Butchers of Kalkengard. So, wagons shooting into the Ungor Spearman herds, getting a little bit of damage, completely wasted ammo though. I didn't turn off fire at will yet, so the Beastmen going to be surging up to control the objectives here as the old State Trooper line does move forward. So Sigmar Sons and Flagellants, all those bad boys are getting ready to party as the cannons are going to be unleashing cannon fire onto both Centaurs and characters and whatever else they can kind of reach. But obviously they have pretty good angles here, but both of them have been trained onto the Butchers of Kalkengard, which obviously a 1700 gold Minotaur unit, although I think they got a cost decrease in the patch, didn't they? So maybe they're a little bit cheaper, but still a super impactful piece. And they have regeneration, so if you can kill models outright with cannon shots, then you're going to be feeling pretty good. So first cannon volley comes in. It does partially hit them, but it looks like the rest of the cannons do miss. We don't kill any models, unfortunately, so not the best start of that cannon salvo. There we go. Now we're starting to really saturate in there and get some good firepower into them, so that felt good. The Beastmen obviously preparing for a big Alpha Strike on the flank here, so they're coming around the side, going to be getting very aggressive. Diving into the backfield is definitely very risky. I mean, he's taking a little bit of damage, but diving back here against the Empire, yes, he might be able to get the cannons, but it's also going to overextend many of the Beastmen forces and allow me to really countercharge them and get those hammers going. So Fleshhounds, Minotaurs, as well as Centaurs with throwing axes moving up. We do have the 2 Spearmen with shields, summoning out the State Troopers at the ready, General. Buna's going to be going down to the back. Buna is going to be nailing those Knights of the Blazing Sun. Thankfully for me, they do have a little bit of spell resist, so it's not quite as bad as a Reiksguard Knight or Zentler's kind of getting hammered with that. And in the meantime, wagons blockading the Ungor Spearmen as more Ungor Spearmen do move around the side. Now, I do manage to get some spears over to the side objective and get that, so I was very grateful because I was super pinned in here. In fact, that I can get one objective's good. A couple of Hounds do try and get through, but the Knights of the Blazing Sun aren't going to be having that, and they get in there and they lance down those Hounds, and those Hounds are going to get broken real quick, especially with the Prince and Emperor nearby. Minotaur is also coming in the backfield, so we do have Minotaurs with shields. It's going to be hard to kind of stop the full onslaught, but we have a pretty big value lead already. I mean, the Beastmen have taken some heavy casualties. Flagellant's winning here. Sigmar Sun's winning here. We have a side objective, but this one cannon is going to pay the troll toll as the Minotaurs do get back here, and this is going to be a rough one. Those, oh man, those golden shoulder plates on the Minotaurs look really, really cool. Nonetheless, Knights of the Blazing Sun trying their best to defend the backfield. So they're going to be coming back here and hammering into the Minotaurs. Big, big damage. For sure, as those Knights of the Blazing Sun are known for their shock damage. The State Troopers also going to be rallying back to try and stack on top of the cannons, and a couple units of just haggard Ungors, I think, got back here. No, that's actually the Beast Lord. The Beast Lord of the Beastmen has made it, and Minotaurs with Great Weapons going to be diving into the backfield as well. So a lot of anti-large, getting a little bit dicey for the Empire here. Going to have to hold back this Beastman onslaught and try not to lose too much in the process. As long as we can keep the value trading a little bit even, it should be okay. And again, Franz is going to be a much bigger difference maker than like the Beast Lord, right? Just that like 800 gold Beast Lord. Nice play here by Subutai as well. Does get a couple Centaurs. I summoned in some Huntsmen on the flank to try and get some support. Alas, he did have some infantry there, and the Centaurs are able to collapse on them, so a little bit precarious. One cannon's offline, and the value lead is really closing now. The initial value that I did get with the cannons is kind of shutting down, although the middle fights are actually going well. Sigmar Sun smashing here. Flagellant's going to be moving up to the point, although Razorgors will probably hurt them pretty badly. I do have some Flagellants over here, but unfortunately Subutai is just getting freebies here. They're basically just being picked apart by Centaurs with throwing axes, but in the back, Minotaurs, I mean, a lot of expensive Beastmen units. Minotaurs like did get a cost reduction, but they're still not cheap. We are able to break them down with Franz, so they're really getting routed pretty heavily. Both my cannons did get shut down, so one cannon shut down here, but that's what I'm talking about. It's like, it forces your opponent to take very dicey engagements. It doesn't force them to, honestly, but it often makes them do it, just because, you know, they don't want to be getting shot by the cannons. Granted, I think maybe the Beastmen in this situation want to play the objectives a little bit more and just like hammer my front line down, because the cannons were doing damage, but, you know, Flagellants and State Troopers, you could probably really wreck them pretty badly. And just let the cannons kind of shoot for a little bit, you know, and then get all three objectives and triple cap the Empire, really put that pressure on them that way rather than diving into the backfield. But we are pulling a little bit of a value lead. Fran's still doing very well. He doesn't have anti-large, but with Galmaraz active, he will. Jade Wizard dropping an Earthblood right there to keep the State Troopers fighting. State Troopers moving up to the middle. So we got Sigmar Suns as well as Flagellants. Here on this point, it looks like there's going to be some Manticores, which I really don't like Manticores against Empire in my experience. I feel like the wagons always just kill them, and or Pistoliers, and like the Empire heavy cavalry is pretty good at pinning them down. Overall, I think Manticores are pretty good against low leadership factions like Greenskins, and you know, where you're really looking to snipe things like Skaven. But against Empire, they typically just get kited and picked apart. And we do see a 1,600 gold investment in two Manticores here, which is really, I don't think, going to do much for shifting the tide of the battle. Whereas like a couple of Gore Herds, maybe. I could Vanguard up and start like trading well into my Flagellants, or like Tuskor Chariots, just like massacring all my infantry out here, right? There's a couple different options, but Franz hunting down the Death Wizard, going after the Bray Shaman, and able to get some big shots. The Prince and Emperor, he's not taking it, man. He's getting some work done here, as that Bray Shaman does get broken. Still going to be hard, though. I didn't want to get caught by Grog Hooves and two Manticores. I saw them coming in, so Fran's going to be re-rallying here to the other side. A Spearman in the backfield to keep fighting. And now we got grenade launchers coming out. So Sigmar Suns and Flagellants holding the middle objective. Side objective is about to be taken by a couple Spearman herds. And the grenades are just trying to hunt down these Centaurs here. And getting some nice grenade salvos in the process. You can see some big damage kind of saturating into them. And yeah, that's not bad at all. Knights of the Blazing Sun and Empire Knights moving around. We're starting to kind of take control of this battle. We're at 8.6 to 6.3. As you can see, the forces of the Bray Herd are looking even more thin. The two Manticores, you know, just being dragged around. And this would be happening with Pistoliers, Huntsmen, whatever, right? Like, the Manticores just... They also lack armor piercing, so against, like, the big armored Empire characters, they're not going to, like, trade super well into, like, a character like Franz. Granted, at this point, I'm pretty low health, so I'm going to have to run anyways. But side objective is controlled, and it looks like it's going to be a triple cap here, as the Beastmen are going to be looking for some options. Looking to try and get in there, but more Centaurs coming out. Not a lot of anti-infantry killing. A lot of the stuff is you know, big anti-large kind of gooning type things, which aren't going to be terribly effective here. My grenade launchers do overextend into Minotaurs with great weapons, but again, Minotaurs with great weapons will probably flounder against Flagellants, Sigmar Suns, those type of units. And now Chad Karl Franz going to be getting a regrowth. There he goes. I didn't bring, you know, honestly, Dwellers is very good, but I've been having success just bringing regrowth too. It depends on the matchup, I guess, but here the grenade launcher is going to pull back. Fade of Buna going down on those guys. Not going to do a whole lot. Probably Buna's a little bit better on the Sigmar Suns here, just to try and get him off the objective. One of my better units, or Knights of the Blazing Sun, but I did just summon them, so it's a little bit hard to say here, but Knights of the Blazing Sun coming on out, going to be hunting. The Beast Lord is just kind of getting dragged through the mud here, getting shot to pieces, and he's going to be paying the price as the Powder of Sigmar prevails. The Prince and Emperor up in the sky, going to be turning about face maybe to battle the Manticore, calling in his Huntsman battalion to put a little bit of fire on that foul beast. But looks like the objectives are being controlled. Here in the middle, we do have a couple Ungor Spearman herds coming in, but, you know, Empire, this is one of the few matchups in which Empire troopers, like the Flagellants and Sigmar Sons, actually are going to be winning some fights, so, you know, it certainly is quite a bit of fun. Fran's up to only about 1100 value, but he still caused a ton of terror this game, really able to buckle Beastmen positions with that. Here, he just kind of is hitting and running on the Manticores. The wagons do get some serious firepower. Huntsman to the back, very, very good choice against Beastmen. And Empire Knights battling into the Minotaurs with great weapons, which is going to be pretty terrible. The Minotaur great weapons are going to club these Empire Knights, and I really like this color scheme that Subutai brought. It's so cool. Which one is that? That's Torox's, I guess. Yeah, they just have like golden armor. It's very, very rad looking. So one Manticore down. Here on the other side, Flagellant Sigmar Sons moving up. Knights of the Blazing Sun buckling that position. Looking like it's going to be pretty over for the Beastmen. We have a big value lead, and Karl Franz able to rout the last Manticore. And here we see this Feral Manticore also being shot to pieces by the Huntsman. We got a triple cap on them, and the Bray Herd's going to be sending some Centaurs out and whatnot. But anyways, we will fast forward a little bit here as the battle does come to its conclusion. So just a couple talking points. Obviously, this map, Subutai and I were both discussing it. I think the map makes it even better for the Empire because the Beastmen are kind of forced into a more aggressive posture. On this map, you probably would want to pick a faction that has, we were just playing for fun and practicing a little bit, but this is a map that would definitely favor like an Empire type faction that can just shoot you. Like it's pretty small, so the cannons can range you pretty quickly. I couldn't hit his spawn zone, but it was pretty damn close to it, right? The cannons can cover all 3 objectives. So Beastmen definitely a little bit of a precarious pick on this map. That doesn't mean, however, that the Beastmen can't win against such factions on this map. I think you just have to adjust your playstyle. It's still going to be favored for the Empire. I personally feel Empire's favored against Beastmen in general, but I think that, you know, playing the mid objectives more, maybe, yeah, the Minotaurs with great weapons. I wonder if you really need those in the beginning. They just seem a little bit vulnerable, but yeah, like Beastmen could come in with a Gore Herd battle line with Ungor Raiders, Razor Gore Herds, and then suddenly, you know, you annihilate the Empire front line, and Empire's forced back on its cannons and its wagons, which you're not overextending into, and then you have a triple cap on the Empire for a long time, and even if Empire can grind back value, you may win on points as well, right? And then, so there's some back and forth for sure. I just think the aggression on this map wasn't the way. I think on other maps, like a build like this could work, but certainly not on this one. But yeah, cannons did pretty good despite dying. Fran's not super crazy, but cavalry did good. GG, well played. It was a fun one. Yeah, I think Ungor Raiders could be actually really good against Empire. I think like 3 or 4 of them can be devastating because Flagellant, Sigmar Sons, State Troopers are all very vulnerable to archer fire, even with shields because they're only bronze shields. So you can focus fire them down. Gore Herds will trade upwards into all these infantry. And then when the Empire Heavy Cav comes in, you slam them with a Buna and countercharge them with really cheap Razor Gores, which cannons aren't really going to generate much value against. So there's a lot of cool options there for sure. Torox the Brass Bull is also menacing. Granted, Franz and wagons really snipe him. So I don't hate the idea of like a Bray Shaman Lord either, or this tactic of like unsummoning. But yeah, GG, well played. We'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves. And that is it for today.